Welcome back to an impromptu episode of the Sunday Stash. This is episode number 5. I'm actually doing this and releasing it on Tuesday in preparation for the election. And I wanted it to originally be a little bit shorter than normal. It was going to be real quick to the point. But as I started to do a little bit of research and started thinking about things, I figured I really can't just leave it as short and sweet. I kind of have to talk about a few of these extra things, give my opinions on a few things. So the three things that I really want to talk about today, it's my opinion is the three types of voters that we got coming out in the election tomorrow. And when I say the three types of voters, I'm talking about the people that are in support of Jorgenson, Biden, and Trump. And I feel like all of these people kind of fit into one kind of category, and they all fit somewhat of a similar description. It's going to be, I think, maybe a little bit narrow, but I do think that they'll all kind of fit it. So I'm going to start with Jorgenson. This will probably be the quickest and the easiest to talk about because it is, I'd say, probably the most cut and dry. In my opinion, the supporters of Jorgenson, they actually care about the system, and they're really just hoping to get enough votes so that they can get a place at the table for next election. They realize that the government is just getting way too big, and it's way too involved in everybody's lives. Too much regulation. And Trump's kind of cut a little bit of regulation back, but too much regulation. It's realistically, it's too much protecting people from themselves. Hey, protect me from myself. The government has to step in and do that for you. And then, regulation is making us kind of dumb. At least in my opinion, that's what I see. We're not really having to go out and be smart about the way that we make decisions. So that's how I see it. And then people that are in this category, they're looking at Trump and Biden as they're products of the system that we have. Biden been in politics for 47 years. Trump, he was a businessman / movie star / like WWE wrestler. Reality TV star, and now he's like, you know what, I'll get into politics. So, Trump and Biden, they see him as just products of the environment that they're in, out of touch with the everyday person. They're realistically, they're just old white guys, and they're well above the age that they should be to be president. I think voters in this category, they see Jo Jorgenson, and they realize that she's well educated. She's smart. I think that she ends up, she's speaking well, and realistically, she's going to represent the United States on a global level and a national level in a much better way than either Biden or Trump will. Obviously, Jorgensen doesn't have any huge skeletons in her closet with, children that are working inside of the administration, or a son who's addicted to cocaine and got a stripper pregnant. So I think Jorgensen's probably smooth sailing there. But at the end of the day, this is a protest vote. Jorgensen's not going to get enough votes to really do anything. At this point, you're going to need, she'd have to siphon off, I'd say, 20 million votes from either of the candidates, and I just don't think that that's possible. And I'll get into the reasons why I don't think that that's possible. I wouldn't be surprised to see her get around 10 million votes, but I can't imagine that she'll get many more than that. I do hope that it happens, that she gets a decent amount of votes. That way that the Libertarian Party can realistically play a role in next election, instead of just having, choice A and choice B, which realistically it's the choice, Biden or Trump. You're choosing between, you're eating shit regardless, and one of them is just shit on a piece of bread, and then the other one's shit rolled up in a wrap. Both of them are garbage, and you really don't want either of them. But you don't really have much of a choice, I guess. So anyway, the Biden voters, at least in my opinion, this is not fact or anything like that, but realistically, Biden's just the guy. He's the guy that got put in the position. They had an empty spot. They had to throw somebody in there, and he's the one. In my opinion, they're not really voting for him. They're voting for the guy that has a D next to his name and a blue banner. That's it. In the Democratic primary, he only got 19 million votes, which it sounds like a lot, but I'll get into those numbers here in a little bit. During the Democratic primary, Bernie Sanders actually had a pretty decent amount of momentum in there, but Biden ended up making a final push and demolished Sanders in that. I think it is important to note that Harris, she actually had a presidential campaign for a short amount of time, but she ended up dropping out back in December of 2019. And to be honest, I think that if Biden had chosen a different running mate, I think he would have a better chance. Not somebody who tries to pander to get the black vote. And I'm talking about Kamala Harris. I hope that people are able to see through her lies and just the blatant fakeness that she exhibits. That crazy laugh that she's got is, I couldn't deal with that. If Biden had chosen someone like Amy Klobuchar, I think he would have done better. Maybe an Elizabeth Warren, she would have definitely gotten attacked by Donald Trump. But realistically, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren would have been, I think, a much better choice. They had much more support through the primary, and I think they would have gotten the base to come out a little bit more. Now, if he had chosen someone like Tulsi Gabbard, I actually probably would have thought about voting for her. I liked Tulsi Gabbard in the debates, and I thought she was strong, and I like some of the policies that she's got. And realistically, let's be honest, Joe Biden's not making it through this next 4 years if he gets elected. He's just not cognitively there. I've talked about it before, and I think that he's just got some mental decline, not with his stuttering or anything like that, because he's kind of done that his entire life. It's the forgetting kind of where he's at, forgetting that he's running for president, not Senate, stuff like that. So, my opinion, that's kind of what's going on. So whoever, realistically, if Biden is elected, Harris is going to be the president. So as I mentioned before, Biden only got 19 million votes in the Democratic primary. Sanders ended up having 10 million, and his largest chunk of that came from California, which he actually won. I think California, Nevada, Colorado, and it was a handful of states. I think Vermont, because I think that's where he's actually a senator in. And in total, there was only 36 million votes in the Democratic primary. Contrast that with the 18 million votes that Trump had in the Republican primary, in which he was able to get 2,549 of the delegates, and that last delegate went to Bill Weld, which I don't know who the hell that guy is. Anyway, historically, that's the trend. The incumbent usually wins the majority of the delegates. So, in 2012, Obama got 88.9% of the delegates, and he only did it with 6 million votes. So if he had actually gotten 19 or 18 million votes like Trump, it would have definitely been a blowout. So realistically, I think it's safe to say that Trump's base is going to get out and vote. Now, that brings me to the largest portion of this kind of talk that I have here. It's the Trump base, right? I mean, like I said before, the Jorgenson base, I think, is just going to be the protest vote. People are just going to end up voting for that when they think, I'm not voting for Biden and I'm not voting for Trump. The people that are voting for Biden, they're voting for him because he's got a D next to his name. I think that's about it. They don't care who it is as long as it's a D. Realistically, it's not Trump, so they're voting for him. I think I've actually said this before. If the option was not Trump, there'd probably be 20 million people, 20, 30, 40 million people who vote for not Trump. So anyway, Trump. It's actually, when you think about his base and his followers and everything like that, he's created this base that people that follow him around. His campaign rallies, if you look at him on TV, they're like concerts. He's got these huge venues, tons and tons and tons of people. Like, these people absolutely love him. And it's kind of crazy, to think, he ended up getting 18 million people to come out and vote for him in the Republican primary when he was the incumbent. Obama in his second term, like I said before, he got 6 million votes. Trump got 18 million during a pandemic at that. It wasn't just people coming out, they came out and they voted for him because I think they want him as the president. They want him as the Republican candidate. So, it's not surprising that the Democrats had a lot of voters in this primary, with 36 million of them. When they're not the incumbent, they usually get a lot of people to turn out. 36 contrasted to the 6 million that Obama got for his second term. So when they're not the incumbent, or when they don't hold the White House, they usually get a decent amount of people out. So, but to go back to Trump's base, he has created this idea for everyone in his base that, everybody's against him. And realistically, it's not just him, it's us, right? It's them against us. Trump and his base, right? They're not attacking just Trump. They're attacking Trump and everyone that loves Trump, everyone that voted for Trump. That's who they're attacking. They're attacking us, and that's the idea. That's what he has been able to put out there and gotten everyone to believe. Now, with all that being said, I don't necessarily think that that's completely unfounded. And the reason that I say that is because, there's been, over the last 4 years, there's been so many instances where people have had Trump signs, they get torn down, they get destroyed, people just yelling about him, people wearing MAGA hats and getting attacked in public. We had the Covington Catholic kid in Washington at the March for Our Lives rally. He was wearing a MAGA hat, and that kid was plastered all over the news as being this terrible person, and everything was bad. And that kid ended up winning a multi-million-dollar payout from I don't remember who it was, so I'm not gonna just guess, but it was someone in the mainstream media. I don't remember the actual company that ended up paying out, but that's one example. And there's many more. If you go on Twitter or you go on YouTube and just search up MAGA hat or get attacked, it's pretty crazy. If you come out and you support Trump, it's the idea of you're getting canceled. It's the cancel culture, right? You get ridiculed. Here not too long ago, Ice Cube came out and he even just mentioned that he was working with Trump on the contract with Black America, the Platinum Plan. Lil Wayne did the same thing. He came out, he posted a picture, and people are trashing him. People are saying, you used to make good music, but I don't know about that anymore. Kanye, he kind of rescinded his endorsement of Trump. Now he's running his own campaign. 50 Cent, he came out and he mentioned how he didn't want to be what I think it was 20 cent instead of 50 cent, talking about taxes. And then he ended up, because of the backlash, he came out and he said, I ain't never voting for that guy. But realistically, 50 Cent's voting for Trump. he's voting with his wallet. And, realistically, it's a good thing vote's a secret. You don't have to come out, and you don't have to say anything. You can just, you can do exactly what he's doing right there. You can come out, you can say, hey, this tax plan is this, but I plan on voting for Biden. Boom. Cast your vote for Trump. That's what it is. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Here, not too long ago, I guess Mike Ditka came out, Brett Favre, Jay Cutler. I know at least for Jay Cutler and Brett Favre, you go on Twitter and stuff, and after it came out that they supported him, people are talking about how I used to like the way you threw the ball, but not anymore, man. I can't stand that. It's a good thing. You sucked your whole career. And it's like, just cancel, right? Then you got people wearing MAGA clothes or Trump clothes or anything like that and getting beat up. You're trashed in the media as being a racist. And it's just, it makes those people feel a certain way, right? When people say that stuff about you, it makes you get very defensive, and I think that's what's happening is there's so many Trump supporters out there that are being called racist, that are being called just everything in the book. It makes his supporters unify around him, and I think what they're going to do is I think they're going to end up coming out in numbers. We saw that he had 19 million votes in the primary. And I think there's going to be a ton more people that come out from the rural areas, and they're going to start voting for Trump. So I want to kind of do a little bit of quick math here. As of July 1st of 2019, this is last year, the U.S. had 328 million people. It's actually a little bit more than that, but I'm just going to use 328 million for ease of math. This is according to the census.gov website. So this is a government website. 23.3% of those people are under 18, and they can't vote anyway. So 328 million, 22.3% of that's roughly 73 million people, right? So if you take the 328 minus 73, you get about 254 million people that are voting age. Now, some of those people can't vote, and I'm not sure on the demographic breakdown of that, whether, some of those people are ineligible for voting because of immigration status or something like that. I mean, even on a high end, you say, okay, we got 250 million people, and you take 50 of those away for people that have immigration status or people that are felons or something like that have had their rights taken away, which it can't be nearly 50 million people that are in those situations. But if you take that away, you have a ton, millions of people, right? There was about 130 million people that voted in the last election. It was slightly above that, but 250 million people of voting age, and we had 130 million people vote, right? Now, if you think about that, that's over 100 million people that are still left out there that either decide not to vote or something, right? They don't care about politics. They're not going to get involved. So with that being said, that 100 million people is what Trump is after. He's not going to get the people that have already made up their mind to vote blue and to vote for Joe Biden. He's not going to get them. He's getting his base out and rounding up the people that have sat out of the elections, and he believes that he's going to be able to get them. Say what you will about the intelligence of the people that are voting for Trump, and most Democrats and people in the media will say that they're pretty dumb. But when Trump says things like fake news and that the media and the Democrats are calling you stupid, and then the media confirms that that's what when the media does things and they manipulate things and they lie about numbers and they get caught, the only thing that it does is confirms to Trump's base that fake news exists. So they believe anytime he says fake news, it's fake news, regardless of whether it's fake news or not. And like I said before, say what you will about the intelligence of that group of people, they're going to end up, when you attack them, they're going to play defense. And you got over 100 million people there that you need to get out and convince to vote your way, whether it be voting blue or voting red or libertarian. There is a third option, or Kanye, I guess he is technically running. When the media calls a large portion of the United States stupid, and then when those people see the media making mistakes or see the media censoring or playing the partisan games, they don't like it. When Trump says he's been attacked for years and years and years and years, those people are going to believe it. I have the feeling that a lot of people in the rural areas are going to come out in this election. One example, I think Virginia is going to end up having record voter turnout. And it's not going to be Northern Virginia, and it's not going to be Hampton Roads or Richmond. It's going to be the west side of the state, where all those people see Ralph Northam trying to come after their guns. I don't know if anybody has seen any of the videos or anything like that from the gun rights rally that they had in Virginia. But I think you're going to see record voter turnout from the rural areas in Virginia. With all that being said, the thing that I am personally worried about is it's not Trump getting elected, because realistically most things are really going to just stay the same. There's not likely going to be radical change unless the Senate and the House of Representatives all flip to one certain way. If they all go Republican, then yeah, there might be radical change. If they all go Democrat, then there might be radical change. But realistically, it's likely going to stay somewhat similar and the same. But the thing that I'm kind of wondering about is what happens if Trump does lose the election. Where do those people go? Right? The people that have followed him around, do they just pivot to another Republican candidate for the next election? Do they just retreat back to the rural mountains and do their own thing? Trump's a showman. There aren't any other Republican candidates that are showmen. They're all boring. They're politicians. That's what they are. That's why Trump is able to get so many people to come out to his rallies. These people love him. None of these other candidates are going to be able to use Twitter in the same way that Trump does. So, I'm curious to see, and that's the Trump voters. I don't know what's going to happen with those people, whether or not it's going to be a smooth transition if Trump does lose. I do think that regardless of which way the election goes, there's going to be people that are upset. There's going to be rioting, there's going to be looting, and most likely it's going to end up happening in the cities. That's where everybody's preparing for the rioting and the looting. At least that's what I've heard. So it's going to be crazy. I'm a little bit concerned personally about the turnout of the election if Trump does not get elected, mainly because he has riled up his base so heavily. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the election. I kind of don't really think it's going to end up being called in one day. It's possible that it is. A lot of the mail-in ballots are still going to be coming in. I know I personally mailed mine out last Friday, so hopefully it gets there. I guess the rules are postmarked by the 3rd, so there's still going to be some things coming in. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, regardless of who wins the election, things kind of settle down, and realistically we can then start focusing on the main issues that we have in this country of fixing our deficit, trying to get a handle on this whole COVID thing, and then, unifying ourselves back together. So I will be back on probably this coming Sunday. I should have the opportunity to do some research this week on some stuff. I wanted to do something about the censorship and everything like that these big tech companies have, but I'm having a hard time reading their terms, not their terms of service, but their policies, because it's so, in my opinion, it's kind of ambiguous. So I'll keep going with that and see what I can figure out on all these big tech companies. So anyway, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, stuff like that. What do you guys out there think of this stuff? Is this an accurate depiction of the 3 types of voters that we're likely going to see tomorrow? There technically, I guess, might be a 4th one, which would be like a write-in candidate, but the 3 main voters for Jorgenson, Biden, and Trump. So should be interesting.